Scene 1, take 6. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Scene 1 podcast, the podcast where we take writing prompts from all over the internet and give them our own treatments.
And then we discuss which ideas are the most pitchable to a big Hollywood studio and which ones are the most producible for aspiring creatives like us.
I'm Sam.
And I'm Derek.
And this is our guest, TJ.
Hello.
TJ is a writer and musician and a good friend of ours. You've probably seen him in a lot of work that we've done.
Mm-hmm. Mainly behind the screens, but yeah, I've always been on set. So.
And we are all aspiring creators that constantly want to challenge ourselves with stories and genres that we wouldn't normally write about. Hence,
this podcast. It's a way for us to stretch our limits and to get better at what we do.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so this week's prompt comes from reddit.com from the subreddit r/writing prompts. It is, you discovered the ability to time travel. You go 30 years into the future expecting to meet your future self, only to discover that you've been missing for 30 years. And this comes from the user Yellow Umbrella Guy. What do you think? I know you usually like to do mystery noirs and stuff.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because, I mean, I don't want to get into what my thoughts are about specifically story-wise, but yeah, you could take this in a few directions. So,
sound like you already got an idea.
Yeah, I already have ideas that I know or don't work. So,
well, that's a start.
Time to find one that does.
Exactly.
Yep. Okay, we're going to take a short break to write our treatments. It'll be a couple minutes for us, but it'll only be moments for you. See you in a bit. Welcome back, everyone. We all just wrote our treatments and we're ready to discuss. But before we dive into the discussion, we'll just briefly go over the writing prompt again. You discovered the ability to time travel. You go 30 years into the future expecting to meet your future self, only to discover that you've been missing for 30 years. TJ, how about you start off by just reading your treatment very quickly?
Absolutely. It's the not-too-distant future. You're a homicide investigator with the ability to time travel, transporting yourself 30 years into the future to potentially unlock a necessary clue for a decades-long case, the Half Moon Murders. However, as you venture through the futuristic world, looking for clues and those still tied to the unsolved investigation, you realize your future self has left the scene, making you suspicious of your eventual involvement in the case, your role in the past murders, and asking the ultimate question, did you ever return from the future?
Good
cool.
stuff.
All right, I'll go next.
Cool.
Mine's called A Little Late, and Cal, a young aspiring scientist, disappears on the eve of his doctorate thesis, in which it's revealed that he's traveled to the future to meet himself, to figure out what's happened and how time travel has changed the world, only to discover that he has vanished, that his whole life is upside down. His long-term relationship with his girlfriend is now broken, and she's gone off and married someone else. His parents died of heartbreak, his lab has been destroyed, and ultimately he has ruined his life and credibility, and no one believes him that he is actually who he is. So in order to fix his life, he has to break the one rule of time travel, and that's that you can't go backwards. So that's mine.
Cool. All right. Mine is, it's been a long 30 years since I've graced this planet with my presence. A lot's changed since then. Family's all but gone, only a sister who hardly believed it was me. News crews and police have been at my door constantly to figure out where I was, but the only question on my mind is where my future self went. Is it the laws of the time machine? Because I went forward and never back. I never lived for these 30 years. What kept me from going back? The time machine has the capability of going backwards, so why didn't I? The feds are here again, but I don't know if they have the intention of asking questions or kicking doors down. I'll write again soon, but don't expect another entry for a little while.
All right.
Yeah.
So You and I both went with the one rule you can't break is going backwards.
Not really.
Not really?
Well, that's why I asked that question while we were writing, because that's literally the rule that I was like, can we make it up on our own? Because in my theory, I want you to be able to go back
Right.
to make the fact that he never did a interesting idea.
And I made it a rule I made it so that you can go backwards, but for some reason the protagonist didn't in this timeline. It's a little confusing because it's like essentially just this protagonist goes into the future, finds out that this timeline's protagonists never lived for the past 30 years. So essentially, that timeline's protagonist did the exact same thing that they did, but when they went back, they were intercepted by the feds and then taken and silenced for using time machine powers. So I mean, I also feel like it doesn't even need to be the feds. It could be the time police. They just warp out of nowhere, no going backwards.
Jean-Claude Van Damme, the time cop emerges.
It could go in a lot of different ways. I'm sitting here realizing I totally could have gotten a lot more creative than just the feds. Oh yeah, the police aren't at my door, but somebody just warped into my room. What?
Yeah, that's definitely a thing.
Everybody loves the hidden sector of the U.S. government.
Oh
that,
yeah,
somehow has a stronghold over time travel or something, just those random U.S. things that
nobody needs to know about this.
The U.S.
shadow government,
U.S. Department of Space-Time. Well, I mean, now that we have a space force, I really feel like the space-time continuum force isn't all that.
We're not too far away.
So,
yeah.
Alrighty.
I wanted mine to be I figured whenever you involve time travel, it always gets gritty. Back to the Future Part 2 or any sad time travel movie where the protagonist realizes they can't fix the timeline they're from, and I was
and everything's forever changed.
Yeah, and I figured that will happen in mine, but maybe there's a way I can spin it to make it more of a happy, a lighthearted kind of.
I will say I this what your summary made me think of was when I was little, we had these animated, these VHSs of animated 20-minute animated cartoon shows called The Adventures of Odyssey, and it was put together by a family public radio station, and they created this series of just these kids who would get together and more science fiction based, they would do Star Trek parodies and whatnot. Anyway, they had an episode where they went into the future, and it was basically your situation, just everything's different, and they kind of had to navigate the world, but it was family friendly, so it was a little bit more lighthearted.
Right.
So yours made me think of a pilot to it doesn't have to be a cartoon, but just a Saturday morning special, a pilot that would launch into a cool little serial. So if that's kind of what you were aiming for, I think you already have that was the vibe I got.
Okay, well, that's good. I mean, yeah.
A fun Saturday morning special. That's not going to get too dark.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want it to get too dark. I wanted him to be able to figure out a loophole in the whole system, and he's able to get back.
It's not a Christopher Nolan movie.
No, it's not a Christopher Nolan movie, and
yeah,
it's not a hard sci-fi. It's
right.
Definitely a toned back, which admittedly not a lot of sci-fi fans will like, but ideally, I wasn't going for that audience, I guess.
Sure.
Yours though is it's Blade Runner meets.
I guess I'll use this time to talk about the movie that I was thinking about when I wrote this prompt, which was Deja Vu, which is a very underrated Tony Scott film with Denzel, where he time travel. This is all going back. He goes back to solve a crime of a ferry explosion.
Oh, yeah.
Right around the time of Hurricane Katrina. Takes place in New Orleans, and he goes back to solve a crime. And there's some interesting ideas about deja vu and why we have deja vu and how it's related to time travel. And so I kind of thought about going forward to solve a crime. There's a lot you'd have to figure out with that in terms of why would you go into the future to solve something when you go into the future, it's probably already been solved?
Mm-hmm.
But that also begs the question, well, what if the crime isn't already solved? And what if that's because you left the case and everything went to,
Right.
Yeah,
went to ruins?
That's really interesting. Maybe your protagonist's time there in the future could be spent like teaming up with the future self, like opening up the old case and seeing like what both of you could figure out.
Like I thought, like when he goes forward, that's the first thing he does is he tries to find his future self to get what he might, like get quicker. What he spends 30 years gathering, he just gets that quicker in like this quick shot.
Okay.
But when he goes to look for himself, obviously he's gone. So that would like start off a really fun like mysterious thriller, like where he's asking like witnesses or like interviewing people, what's happened with the case over 30 years, but also like, have you seen me? Like where am I?
Yeah.
So
The double mystery.
Whoa.
Be fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And I really love how you spun yours as like an entry into like it just sounded like a good old fashioned film noir.
Mm-hmm.
Like the classic voiceover in the most non Harrison Ford Blade Runner way possible. Like
Yeah, I tried.
Not dry at all. Like that. You honestly could like write an audiobook like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just thought I was about to get into like this fun, colorful paperback novel, and that's not a diss at all. Like I like that.
This definitely feels a lot more like just a stupid, fun blockbuster movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's similar to like Back to the Future, where it's just like, oh god, time, and just kind of everything gets a little crazy.
Yeah, you know what? The way you read it reminds me of this video game called Immortal Redneck, about a redneck that wakes up mummified in ancient Egypt.
Oh
What?
my goodness!
Yeah, and like the whole game is just running around like using these ancient Egyptian blasters to like blast away resurrected mummies and solve puzzles, all while making like it's like a Borderlands ripoff kind of.
Is this like an indie game you can get on Steam?
You
or
can get it on
this,
Steam.
Like,
it's like an actual game.
is it like console?
That's interesting.
No, it's like an actual game that you can get on Steam. I think it's Mac compatible, but it's like it's just super ridiculous. And I was like, man, like yours could definitely be like a blockbuster kind of like running and gunning, shotgun in the time machine. Like,
Yeah.
oh crap, I only got enough room for me and
Like
my shotgun.
something you would like watch on TNT on like a Saturday night.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Channels, you're like, oh yeah, this is about to get dark and delicious.
Oh yeah, this looks like it's about to have a fun time. It's like all over my TV screen. Oh gosh, it's gonna be just the way that like I imagined it, and like the way it's just like, oh no, it'll be like the time cops and stuff. Oh god, I gotta run away from the time cops. Just jumping through history and stuff.
He's like taking a poop and like time cops burst in. Oh shit! And he like blasts him away with his shotgun, hops into his time machine, which is in the tub somehow, and like teleports away. And, like,
I love bathroom time travel.
like
It's so intimate yet.
Mm-hmm.
Just press a button, turns on the shower. Shit.
What'll be really funny is like in all of ours, the confrontation with the future self, or in your case, multiples of the future self would be interesting. Because like, it'd be really fun if you had a shootout with like 4 versions of the same character, and like,
no, you don't belong here. Go away. The time cops will come.
yeah, or like the main guy figures out, wait a minute, they all know exactly what I'm gonna do because I've done this before. I'm another link in this infinite loop, and he's got to figure out a way to break the infinite loop in this final like confrontation.
Yeah, see, that's like half the reason why I imagine mine being like a fun, stupid blockbuster, because in the end, none of it makes any sense.
It's like,
but it's just there to have fun, like timelines be damned.
It's like Clock Stoppers.
Yeah. And
Ooh,
definitely. Like more, and I don't normally write this way. I don't normally write about this because I normally like my science fiction stories a little more on the serious side, and when it comes to time travel, I have like very strict rules. But I feel like when it comes to this prompt, I don't know if I can take it as seriously. Like clearly it can happen. Like the way that you two have written your mysteries is really interesting, and I would like to see where this goes. And in fact, have you both thought about where the plot does go?
I'm like, as you guys talk, I'm doing my best to listen, but I'm also I'm brainstorming this story because I'm sure you guys are doing the same thing. Like, you're looking at your prompts, like, time travel is just so much fun to play with. It's like impossible not to just start going,
going crazy,
free willy nilly.
All I can really see with mine is there's this. I kind of imagined it like not like in the 80s, but like in that sort of like suited kind of like culture, maybe more in the 40s and 50s, like that kind of dress style. I just imagined the main character jumping and clicking his toes for some reason.
Yeah, like, clicks his
for like some reason, like, yes, I time travel. Yeah, it does that.
What if that's how they time travel though? Just click.
Oh, that would
Then he like lands, gets his shoes wet, and that's how they break.
Dang it!
But no, like mine is like very clear. Like the first act is establishing his relationships, his family, what he wants to do, where he goes to school, and then the climax of the first act is time traveling to the future. And then when he gets to the future, the turning point is when he figures out that he's been missing and that every single person that he went to connect with in his life doesn't remember him because it's been 30 years. And then the remainder, the climax of the film is him trying to recreate his time machine without any of the tools he has and using slightly more modern tech that he has no clue how to work.
Yeah.
And then kind of like throughout all of this, he's kind of rebuilt his relationships with these people in the future. And then the climax is, of course, is him deciding, do I go back or do I stay? And I think ultimately he chooses to go back because, there's some like word of wisdom that's like, like there is no like shortcut in life or whatever. You can't just know all the answers.
Yeah.
And, he realizes that like what he could have done in the past with his thesis, because now he knows how to prove it. So maybe he can't go back in time to actually live it, but he's able to send a message back in time or something like that. And
that you should watch. You should watch Deja Vu.
Okay.
You should just watch
that.
You know what? I should have brought it with me.
It's a good movie. It's a good movie. I remember seeing that. Yeah. One thing that I am surprised about is that though the writing prompt mentions that we discover that our future self has been missing for 30 years, we all made our plots about how we were missing. And sure, the writing prompt kind of like pushes it in that direction, but I wonder how an idea would like how a concept of, oh, well, my future self is missing, maybe I could just take over their life of some kind, or maybe I could just kind of make up for lost time and kind of like try and integrate myself into society as it is. And I know like clearly it would be a much more interesting mystery if the protagonist was to look for themselves, but I feel like if you wanted to go for like the rom-com route, it's just like, well, my future self is missing, I'll try and live in their place, make up for lost time, end up meeting somebody really nice from the future, and all that jazz.
That'd be a really fun story, like if you, like a woman, she time travels 30 years into the future, and she finds out that she like passed away or something, and so she left back like she's her husband, her future husband is widowed, and so she has to go like try to blend back into that life. Like, no, I didn't actually die. I'm still here. This is like totally like off the walls, but that would be interesting. Like she sees her husband and she's like, why would I have ever married this guy? And she has to relearn why she was like in love with him in the first place, or like.
That's interesting. I am a little curious as to how that would work out at first,
right?
Especially being like, if he's widowed, it's entirely possible that he could have like moved on completely.
I'm thinking like maybe she died like 5 days ago or something weird like that. Then again, it would probably work way better convenience wise if she was just like in a coma, and like she was at the hospital, she's like looking at herself in the coma, she's the only one there, and then like she watches herself die, and then she's like, oh no, but I can't destroy whatever family I have, so she has to act like she came out of it and like get rid of her body or something. Like, I don't know, I'm just like,
oh man,
you accidentally kill your future self, so, and therefore you have to live. You
have to make. You don't want to like,
It's like
could you imagine like being put into an induced coma for some reason or whatever, and then realizing, wait, shit, my past self might kill me.
What? Well, like, is it what? How do they charge you? How do they charge that crime? Like you kill
I don't even know.
your future self. Is that suicide?
I mean, technically it's suicide, but also technically it's killing another being, and I'm very curious.
Well, look at...
Okay, if they do not believe that you're a time travel, clearly they're gonna charge you with murder. But if you can prove that it's time travel, in some countries it's still illegal to commit suicide. So
Well, it's the Looper rule. Have you guys seen Looper?
Oh no, I love Looper.
Have you seen Looper with Joseph Gordon-Levitt?
it's been a
Bruce Willis?
while.
Okay, it's the Looper rule that when you... Spoilers. When you kill yourself, your past or future self, you erase yourself from the timeline, therefore nobody remembers you because you never existed. You know, that could be the rule, and it's like... murder would be so convenient. Okay, it's like, what if you were like a murderer convincing people to kill their future or past selves?
That is like charisma 100. Holy shit.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we're getting a little off topic.
We're getting way off
Let's
topic.
let's segue into like which ideas we think would be the most producible and pitchable, and let's just keep the discussion going.
Okay.
I'll start off right off the bat. You probably have the most blockbustery idea.
Do I?
Yeah, but you have the more like a more like artistic director would pick this up. Like
Yeah.
I feel like a Guillermo del Toro or
Yeah,
Alfonso
If
Cuarón.
I could pick, I would say David Fincher
Yeah.
circa when he was in the mindset of Girl with a Dragon Tattoo. I would love him to bring
Yeah.
that style to that. That would be my dream.
Exactly, and I feel like yours would be a much more like not necessarily an indie film, but not it wouldn't be like
No.
Yeah, that's not a blockbuster.
you couldn't Blade Runner 2049 it.
I would not pitch this in the hopes of like securing a $100 million budget. I would
No.
not write this thinking that this is going to return like a $300 million box office.
No.
It's not that type of thing.
It's like Memento.
Absolutely.
You know,
yeah.
you write it, you added
Something
the
designed to be a cult classic.
Yes.
right, but you also designed the story with the time travel to present the clues differently because like 30 years into the future, the world doesn't have to change that rapidly. Like,
no, I mean,
okay, sure, between the 80s and like 2010s, like the internet was invented and that changed everything. But you look at something between like the 40s and 70s and
I mean, the exterior of things changes. Like we change our style, and like cars are built better. But you're right. Between the 40s and 70s, I mean, yeah, okay. There's a counterculture movement right there at the end,
right.
and Vietnam War, I guess, impacts things. But that was all psychological. That besides the exterior, like
the technology didn't exponentially grow as fast as it is now.
Nobody was flying any differently in 1971 than they were in 1949 or something like that. So yeah.
Exactly. So like, you know, the world doesn't have to change too much.
Yeah, I mean, unless there's like a boom because of an invention similar to the internet, but I can't even imagine.
Well, see, yours...
it's hard to imagine something like that because it doesn't exist yet.
Well, see, yours, you could play it off as like, you know, your character was the first to discover time travel and the feds caught on or whatever, and that's why in the future, 30 years later, it's all futuristic. Because that could very much well happen, and that's why there's like time police, and they've already traveled back in time to instigate, you know, the Space-Time Continuum Bureau or whatever. And that's why yours is, you know, could have that.
Yeah, I think for like pitching wise, you could pitch that exactly how you just did, and like producers could find a lot of different ways to implement that kind of story.
It's a very malleable idea.
It doesn't even have to be a 2-hour blockbuster. Like I said, you could take that and
this is something that like this is something that you get like Bruce Willis or The Rock to be in. Maybe not. Maybe
not The Rock.
Maybe,
because
probably not The Rock.
The Rock is
he is like a $30 million salary requirement, and like most of that is for like social media marketing. So
okay, you get Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah.
You get Chris Hemsworth.
I'm sure he's like right there in the top 3. Though.
Yeah. Okay. Fine.
You get Shia LaBeouf.
Shia LaBeouf. Oh goodness. Yeah. You can get Shia LaBeouf. You could get. Like you could pick some TV actors that would probably like this could be like their big breakthrough.
Yeah.
You know, yours like you gotta get like I don't know, for some reason I imagine like not Ryan Gosling, but like a Ryan Gosling like kind of like a Ryan Reynolds would be good for this.
I was thinking Miles Teller actually. That's
Ooh,
kind of had
I
in
can
my
see
mind.
Miles Teller with some scruff.
With some scruff.
Yeah.
Post Top Gun 2. He has to make Top Gun 2 first, and then he has to
yeah.
make, because he has to go through that gauntlet before he can.
Gotcha.
He has to be weathered.
Dang.
You know who could also be really good in your movie? Michael B. Jordan.
Oh, absolutely. No, Michael B. Jordan, Miles Teller. I know we're like picking the cast of Fantastic Four, but
Or add Zac Efron and he's got that awkward moment. Add Zac Efron and you got that awkward moment.
Oh, okay, yeah. You know what? Yeah.
All right. So, in terms of most pitchable to a studio, are we going with mine?
I'd say yours. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Thank you both.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I didn't anticipate that. Now moving on to most producible for an indie studio like us, I would. It's tough.
Can we say none of them? Because like I honestly believe none of these can be made on our own budgets.
Well, it's tricky because first of all, you have to make sure that like technological advancements in your timeline are incredibly slow.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to kind of cheese like the time travel thing, in a way, especially if it's like super low budget.
You walk into a door, walk out the door, and it's plus 30.
Yeah.
The other thing too that we that we should consider is like which of our ideas can be compressed into a short.
Yes.
Into like a concept short you're seeing.
Not mine.
I think yours could be more. It'd be less of a scene and less of a short and more of a montage.
It's like an investigation. Like I'm just not sure. I don't know. I don't think you could get the style across. You would have to like make it a different movie to make it shorter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I guess,
which is fine. Like I don't like that's fine. But see, to me, I think yours could be.
Yours definitely has the potential.
It just lose a lot of that time you need to grow with the characters.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but I think that like all of ours would be so based on the protagonist because it's like his journey that's so focal point on either end of like both his journey and then like what happened, the more conflict side of it.
I mean, I hate to bring mine up again for this potentially as the winner because like it's just this concept of being like, oh man, I traveled into the future and now the time feds are after me. That could easily be like a 10-minute short because like Kung Fury did that. Kung Fury did that in like 30 minutes.
Just do the bathroom scene where he's like taking a shit and the time travel device is in the tub and he can't reach while he's taking the shit and then that way you only blow your budget in the last scene where you destroy all the flats in the set. And then reveal that and then like do like a nice sweet ass transition where like he like jumps, touches the time machine as the set collapses and it's just a black void spinning and in a vortex.
You know what would be interesting is if you set yours in like the 1930s or 40s. That's where the base story starts, and then you made it a radio program, and because there's like television isn't quite there yet, it's a radio program.
Just like every single like message just blipping in and out of time, having the cops chase them.
Well, that would be. Well, it would also be interesting. Like you include like 1930s or 40s era like commercials in between. Like you can make this a really creative project. You could even like go back further and make the narration of the present day in like a radio program for like the 20s, and then in the 50s for those segments it's like black and white TV or something like that. And like again you're like talking a lot about like technical stuff, but I feel like you can make that. Like I feel like that's like an independent project.
That's one thing that I don't think we've ever considered is like radio dramas
because
for any of these scripts.
Yeah, radio dramas or alternative form of content. Yeah. Like I was just about to say, like when you brought up radio, I was like, maybe yours could be an interactive game.
Absolutely, no, and you're thinking about it because, I mean, to me, one of the best types of interactive media is it's a mystery. I mean, people like being in control of like solving cases.
Right.
Like, people like having that authority, but also like open-ended crime is like that's why people read books.
Yeah. So, did we ever really decide which one won the most producible?
Well, I guess mine was the most. No. Sorry, mine was the most pitchable, not producible.
Right.
I mean, I guess if any, well,
We
depending on the...
we don't have to decide.
That's true.
We could let the people decide.
I think, yeah, we all could make ours producible.
Yeah.
Too.
Like, for the sake of the question, we would assume that this is a short film in some way, shape, or form. Okay. It's entirely possible to take these scripts, these ideas, and turn them into other, different mediums. Mm-hmm. Like, mine would be a radio show, yours could be an interactive game, yours could be, like, a short animated TV show or something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So... that's definitely something to consider.
Mm-hmm.
So, people of the internet, who do you think? Which idea do you think is the most producible, and which would you want to see us actually make?
And if you do want to see one of these things, how would you want to see it be made? Whether that be via screen, interactive media, or a radio program, because we all know that if you're listening to a podcast, you obviously like listening to audio feeds, so hey, what's not another
thing to listen to?
Dramatic reading, yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, it would be kind of like, I was thinking of Welcome to Night Vale, Night Vale, whatever that, that mega podcast is.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be cool.
God. Yeah, Welcome to Night Vale is actually a pretty good example of like what my style would probably be like.
That's immediately what I thought of when you started reading. I said, ooh, Sam has a future in dramatic readings.
Gasp. All right.
Okay.
Well, I think that just about wraps everything up.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you all so much for joining us for these wonderful stories. If you have... completely forgot like my outro and stuff. Thank you all so much for joining us this past podcast. If you want to see any of these scripts made, definitely let us know. We will see what we can do. If you wrote a prompt of... I'm struggling right now. Okay. Thank you all so much for joining us this past few treatments. If you wrote a treatment of your own for this prompt, definitely let us know down in the comments below. And if you have a prompt of your own that you would like to see in a future episode, definitely put that down there as well. You might just see it.
Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this with your friends and family. We love all the support you guys give, and we'll see you in the next one.
All right. Thank you, TJ, for coming on.
It was an absolute pleasure, guys, and hopefully I will be back for some more impromptu sessions. For maybe scene 2. Who knows?
We might get to scene 2 one day. Who knows?
That'd be
Maybe we get to scene 2 and it's not there, and we have to find the second scene.
Writing prompts!
All right.
Thank you all so much. See you later.
Yeah.